Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'd like to take a look at the many Blastoise and Venusaurs of GLC. So the inspiration for this video came from the fact that someone actually requested Blastoise, but the thing is, there's sadly only 3 that are legal in GLC. So it didn't really make too much sense to do a Blastoise video on itself, but it turns out Venusaur is in a very similar situation. Charizard gets all the love, even when it comes to single prize Pokemon, so Venusaur and Blastoise get to be together in their own video, basically. So yeah, I will do Charizard eventually, but I wanted to, give the spotlight to the Pokemon that don't really get that much representation, at least in terms of Charizard, like in comparison. So Blastoise and Venusaur for today. So what is GLC? For those who need a quick recap, it's a single prize only, no rulebox format. It is singleton except for basic energy, and it's only one type per deck. So either water for Blastoise or grass for Venusaur. Pretty simple. Also, I've got these art rares kind of dotted throughout the video. I'll talk about some more in just a second, but there is also a Wartortle and an Ivysaur art rare from the set 151 if you're interested in rarity upgrades and you weren't aware of them. So, they are nice options basically if you want to indulge. But some noticeable basic upgrades, I've just kind of like highlighted the art rares from 151 as rarity upgrades if you really want to splash out for them. There's also stuff like this Squirtle, which has 70 HP and a single retreat cost, which is very, very nice. But, if you're going for bling over stats, then I wouldn't blame you. And, GLC is one of those formats where, like there's not masses of rarity upgrades. Like you can make things pretty expensive. And I know like one of the big appeals of GLC is how cheap it is usually. But sometimes you do want to bling out the deck and use the nicer cards. So yeah, it's nice that there's cool options at least for these guys. But to kick things off, we have the Venusaur from Dark Explorers, aka Black and White. This Venusaur sadly isn't very good, and it's not because like it has a bad ability, so to speak, but it is just because this ability is actually already on other Pokemon. It's on a Shinotic and a Grottle, both of which are grass type stage 1 in GLC. Venusaur is a stage 2. So essentially, you're just kind of like shooting yourself in the foot, basically, by playing this Venusaur over those ones. However, one plus I will say is that this Venusaur is a bit tankier than them, has 140 HP, but I still don't think that's enough of an offset to be playing a stage 2, and there's just better Venusaur, sadly. It is a bit of a shame, but because it is a cool ability, it's very useful, but sadly, it's just not a strictly great Pokemon to use. It's just not a good attacker. However, one thing I will point out, and this is worth mentioning, is that the Ivysaur from this set, Dark Explorers, does have 90 HP, and it is actually the only Ivysaur that I could find that has 90 HP. So you could run this Ivysaur as a way of, including Level Ball into your deck. So if you happen to play Level Ball in your Grass GLC deck, then this Ivysaur is basically the best one to use if you want to play other Venusaurs, if that makes sense. But yep, then we have the black and white versions of Blastoise, Boundaries Crossed, Plasma Storm, and Plasma Blast on the far right. So yeah, this Blastoise was so good, it got 3 different rarities. Well, 3 different cards, I guess. The middle one, of course, is the one that most people want to seek out, the gold rare. Easily the most expensive, probably shockingly expensive, to be honest. And, the fact that Wartortle and Squirtle have art rares does mean that you can go all in max rarity with the Blastoise line. But how pricey that would be, yeah, probably a wee bit too much for the average player. But either way, Gold Blastoise looks very, very cool, but at least you have 2 other options if you want to indulge. It's also worth mentioning, of course, sorry about that, is that, if you can't get a hold of Blastoise, then Baxcalibur is essentially filling the same role. And Baxcalibur, I think, is a lot more common and not as much of a fan favorite as Blastoise is. So, they could make the argument, oh, you don't need to care too much about Blastoise if you're playing Baxcalibur. But for some people, it's a matter of like preference. In things like GLC, you can get away with minor changes to your deck, even if it's not like strictly optimal, I guess. So, playing Blastoise over Baxcalibur, it's not the end of the world, and it's something you can get away with. But yeah, mainly here because it's just such a good card. Then we have a Venusaur from Shining Legends, which is easily the best Venusaur, and I thought it was worth mentioning because the fact that we have other Shining Legends grass Pokemon in the set just means that if you're interested in, in building around this Venusaur and grass decks in general, then Shining Legends is actually a great set for GLC. It's pretty good for grass, at least in my opinion. You got this Shaman, you got Shining Genesect, which is the most notorious combo for this Venusaur. This was in of itself a deck at the time in Standard. But yeah, Shining Genesect with Venusaur, pretty good combo for GLC. Just that very powerful ability, Jungle Totem, effectively turning grass energy into 2 copies each. So you could, I guess, view this as like a worse, what's it called? Rillaboom? Yeah, the big monkey with the drums. Yeah, Rillaboom, not Donkey Kong. Rillaboom, the one that accelerates grass energy from deck. Like, you could view it as that. But, Venusaur, again, is more of a favorite to some people as opposed to Rillaboom. Like, personally, I prefer Venusaur as a Pokemon. But, just some nice options to consider if you are a Venusaur fan, and this is easily the best one. Next up, though, is we have a Blastoise, which is sadly a wee bit mediocre. It's definitely worse than the other one. It does have the ability Powerful Score, which allows you to look at the top 6 cards of your deck and attach any number of basic water energy cards you find there to your Pokemon any way you like. Then Hydro Tackle does a whopping 150, but it does do 30 to itself. And then I've also got this War Turtle off the side here, just because it has an attack that would have synergy with Powerful Score. So that's not just to say, oh, you could try and copy War Turtle's Hydro Pump. It's just to show that there's a lot of water-type Pokemon which have synergy with Powerful Squall. But of course, Deluge is just a wee bit better in like every capacity. So for some reason, if you can't get hold of like a Baxcalibur, or you can't get hold of like a Deluge Blastoise, then this Blastoise is always here an option. It is a theme deck Pokemon, so that's kind of cool. So it should be like a bit cheaper to get hold of, really. But at the same time, it's just like not a strictly great card, and it's probably not that much cheaper than the other better options. So it's a bit of a shame that this Blastoise is in that situation because Hydro Tackle is doing a lot of damage, but yeah, it's just not a particularly great card. Not the worst either, though, and there's certainly way worse options to play in GLC. Next up, though, is we have a Blastoise in Pokemon Go. Personally, my favorite Blastoise, just because Vitality Spring is really funny. It says once in your turn, you may search your deck for up to 6 energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon any way you like. However, if you use this ability, your turn ends. So you do lose a turn with this ability, but you ramp 6 energy. And why this is really cool is there's several Pokemon like Titan Wailord, which say things like if they have a special energy attached to them, they do a lot more damage. And this doesn't specify basic energy, so you can use this to accelerate special energy, which is really cool. And then if you really want to, you can attack with Blastoise itself and use Hydro Pump that does 90 base and 30 more feature water energy attached to Blastoise. So yeah, very easy to get 1-hit kills with this guy, but of course, if you're using that ability, then you're leaving Blastoise vulnerable, unless you've got another sacrificial Pokemon, I guess, in the active spot to then, promote into Blastoise the following turn and use Hydro Pump. But yeah, still a cool card overall, but yeah, kind of outclassed still, again, by the Deluge Blastoise. Then we also have a Pokemon Go version of Venusaur with the ability Loopy Lasso. It says once in your turn, you may flip a coin. If heads, switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon, which is quite nice. And the new active Pokemon is now asleep and poisoned. So a bit of fun control and gust. Plus, you have to view this as an extra 10 damage plus gust, because the poison tick will take it to plus 10, which is nice. You could also put something to sleep if you really wanted to. I guess this has like decent, like semi-decent control applications, but to be honest, it's nothing like too crazy. Don't think this is like that impressive, to be honest. There's a lot of like Vileplumes and Victory Beals that inflict special conditions and Gust, but none of them are like strictly great. This one's not bad though. Like, it's not bad at all, but again, it's more of a niche kind of card. But still not bad. But yeah, thank you for watching. I do a new set review for GLC with each new release, so subscribe if you're interested in being updated. This is now a series to stay in the future, so let me know which Pokemon you like to see. I'm just currently working my way through a list right now. And if you want to dive into the competitive side, by the way, OmniPoke and the format creator Tricky Jim have both done fantastic videos and guides for each type. Either way, let me know what you think down below. This has been Empower, and yeah, thank you for watching.